You're listening to Rise of the Independents, the podcast dedicated to agencies, their clients, campaigns, and partners on the rise. ROTI is presented by MiO Marketplace, a sales enabling tool to help agencies and their teams find, keep, and grow their business. And now here's your host, Sean Halter.
You are listening to Rise of the Independent podcast. This is the podcast where we talk to and about independent agencies that are on the rise, their clients and partners. We're excited to have as our guest today, Bonn, CEO over at definery, Howie Kleinberg, president at Glow, and David Glaza, founder at Digits. Thank you guys all so much for joining us. Let's jump straight in. The first question is just this. It's called Hot or Not. Who do you feel like is trending out there, good or bad? And why? Howie, let's start with you on that. Who do you feel like is hot or not these days?
So the charity picker at the Emmys this past weekend, I felt was something that certainly grabbed my attention. Mixed reaction, no question about that. At the end of the day, it raised $350,000 for Boys and Girls Club of America and brought a ton of awareness. And I would say that is certainly something that is a little good, a little bad, and the why.
I mean, when you think about how many years the Emmys have been on, I was as surprised as anybody else when it kind of jumped out there. But to your point, it's awareness. Money was actually raised, and it wasn't raised to the detriment, at least I didn't feel like, to anybody's. Even the pushbacks I saw, I kind of felt like, really, that's the pushback? So anybody else have any other opinions on that? Everybody hopefully knows, at least to some extent, what Howie picked. Robin, how about you?
I'm coming at this from a UK-centric perspective, so I've also been away. So I'm not. The fact that the trending question comes first is not a good look for me.
Well, listen, basically at the end of the day, what it was we had the Emmys here in the U.S., and to try to keep the speeches short, the presenter said, hey, look, if you'll keep them short, I'll donate money to the Boys and Girls Club. And
nice.
If you keep it long, I'll take money away from it. So I don't know. I thought it was a clever way to do it. David, how about from your side?
I didn't watch the Emmys. I saw bits and pieces of this on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatnot, but I have not an Emmys guy, so I'll have to check it next time.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting. David, how about from you? Who's your hot pick this week, either hot or not from your side?
We do a lot of retail media, and I'd say it's more the retail media adjacent space is a little bit hot. So RMNs have been around for a while, but you're talking about like third-party RMNs. So whether that be like commerce, credit cards, apps, sort of like grocery apps, a little more third party. I'd say that space is a little bit more hot these days than it's been before.
I think the pick of Claire Wyatt and pulling her in over at the trade desk was one of the smarter decisions they've made in some time. It's been almost every year that as more and more RMNs seem to pop up and build up out there, you've got more and more brands that say, I don't have the time literally to be across 28 different RMNs. We've got to consolidate this. So it's been fun to see what she's doing over the trade desk. Criteo and others obviously are continuing to play in the space. So I would agree. Definitely hot. Robin, how about from your side? Pick a brand you feel like is hot or not these days and why, even if it was wherever you went on vacation.
Well, my mind immediately doesn't go to a brand on this one. It's my expertise is in and around the agency space itself. So what's kind of trending for me, and it's kind of getting on my nerves a bit, if I'm honest, is just how much agencies are talking about AI as an efficiency driver. And, that's all very well while it props up your margin and helps you do stuff a bit quicker. But I think we should be having a much broader conversation as agencies, particularly in the independent sector, where we can make these changes more quickly. We should be talking about how this is driving new business models. I think that's a massive opportunity that absolutely should be hot and trending right now.
You brought up a good point. I was out with a partner of mine, Stephen Moy. He brought up, I thought, a pretty interesting point. You made me think about it because of your vacation. I'm old enough that, I used to use a travel agent sometimes for my vacation. So you'd go to your travel agent, they'd tell you where you should go and maybe why. So places had to pitch to them. They were your agent. And one of the points that Stephen reminded me last night is that the new age and the new generation that with AI, brands do need to be thinking of is how are you talking to these agents? How are you now talking to these gatekeepers that really are just that? These are gatekeepers. And although agentic AI has come up in lots of conversations and how brands are navigating through search, I feel like yesterday was one of those first times where it really just kind of stuck in my brain of, oh, he's right. 6 months from now, whatever it is, and that's 6 months from now, whatever it is I may want to do, it's not that it doesn't matter what the brand has been pitching to me directly, but my gatekeeper, my agent, is going to be the one dictating what I see or don't see. And maybe that's a little scary. I don't know. Robin, let me preface off of that to get your opinion on just that.
Yeah, I think it's great news. I mean, I think, for something as joyful as going on vacation, the experience of deciding where to go and how much to spend and, the intricacies of the spec of your holiday, it sucks. I hate it. It's one of the most soul destroying things. So if some bit of whizzy technology can allow me to be much more kind of Q&A based from the comfort of my own settee about what it is, what's available in the world, what's possible, what's not possible, what's in my price bracket, what's not. Like, bring on the agentic solution to this. I can't wait.
So Howie, how about from your side? Again, both of us, probably remember that day when all of that changed and we could start searching for our own trips ourselves. Where does this agentic AI come into play? And how do you think brands need to be thinking both creatively as well as potentially from a media standpoint to stand out?
What's actually really interesting about the example using a travel agent, the way I actually early days of AI got my team, we didn't want to force it on people. We wanted to be more of a discovery and through their own curiosity, sort of go down rabbit holes and learn and figure it out and all that. But the one way that I tried to make it as practical as I could to show everybody the power was I said, pick the hometown that you're in, take $20 and say, I want to go visit all the necessities in my town. I want to eat a breakfast and a lunch on $20 a day and see what comes back. And it was pretty powerful. And it was the catalyst to get everybody on my team really to take the deep. Again, this was like, ChatGPT day 2, but it was really a pretty powerful moment.
Listen, I'm in Hoboken across from Manhattan. I'm not even allowed to walk out my door for $20. I certainly can barely catch a boat for that. David, how about from your perspective? Again, where does this conversation around agentic AI lead? And is it now the brands are talking to computers and that's what's most important?
Yeah, a couple of spots. So I was just at a retail media conference last week out in Palo Alto. So as you can imagine, heavy AI focus. Probably half the time was AI. 2 buckets of work, one internal and operations, just how our team's going to get faster based off of that. So I think that's pretty, I don't know, easy, but you can imagine how that might work internally. But the other was more shopping based. And I would say, that group is very bullish on the idea of how do you talk to Perplexity, how do you talk to ChatGPT, and how do you build all this commerce sort of into it, and then just automate the easy decisions as a shopper. Theoretically build my Walmart basket for me and sign it up and have somebody literally deliver to my house without me even knowing, right? That's the vision. The difference between today and tomorrow, might be longer than you think, or the adoption rates there, but there is a world where it's 95% computer agent talking based, and brands need to do a better job of having data online that these agents can actually talk to. So like today, the number one sourced, I believe they quoted the top 2 sources for AI, it's Wikipedia and Reddit. And doesn't mean it's always right. So,
I mean, the Reddit one to me was the one that really kind of jumped out. And again, perhaps I'm a little old school. I remember again, when you had to figure out, well, do we really want to build in search for Bing? Do we need that? And yet this layer of complexity, the layer of what needs to happen, the amount of these agentic and how they pull these parts and pieces together, I think certainly layers a level of complexity, and we will have to continue to get past that complexity before things start to feel easy again. Obviously, from a consumer facing, to your point earlier, Robin, it's like, hey, if they can help me pick the right spot, like, so be it. Speaking of you, Robin, this next question is just that. It's called, hey, that's me. We give you a chance to talk a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Let's start with you there, Robin. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So I suppose there's a nice segue from the point about AI. I think we're a consultancy. We advise agencies on how to build a better business. So what we're really good at is helping agencies kind of look at this like dramatically changing competitive environment and just figure out what is it that they are uniquely good at. And the second thing we do is that we help them sell their work at a premium. So agency owners and founders and CEOs, they come to us when they want to enjoy their work more, when they want to stand out more, when they want a more commercially savvy business, and they're ready to make changes. So AI is accelerating the need for doing that because obviously it's so challenging to the business model.
David, how about you?
Well, it feels like Robin's talking to me here as an independent agency owner. What my company Digits does really well is retail media. So we work for brands directly and help them use retailer tools to squeeze more and more sales and traffic out of shopping. And then we work for mid and longer tail retailers themselves to operate and run it. And so, about a decade's worth of experience of managing retail media on both sides of the house.
And Howie, tell everybody a bit more about yourself.
Howie Kleinberg, I'm the president of Glow. We are an independent agency founded in 1999. I wake up every day just obsessed with making Glow as good as we can possibly be. In terms of what it is that we are best at, it's helping brands find that authentic POV, cultural POV, and turning them into fandoms.
I started this podcast 3 seasons ago. We called it Face of Marketing. It was a chance to be able to talk to some larger brands and some of the independent agencies that they work with. And then this season, we decided to call it what it is, a focus on independent agencies and what they do and how they do it. It's been really fun and refreshing. There are 4,000 independent agencies in just the US alone, at least according to LinkedIn. And outside of the small agency awards and sometimes something like a Mirror conference, I feel like they don't get the love and attention that they need. It's nice to see people like Robin and Ivan Fernandez and some people that help them. But we also, when I was running an independent agency, I didn't have a good source. I got the same ad age and the same ad week that everybody else did, even if they were a holding group. So it's been fun to give more voices to the independent agencies out there, as well as those people that are helping them along the way. So I want to make sure I take a moment to thank all 3 of you for joining us on this. And let's jump into the next question, which is called Consider This. Name one thing that brands seem to overlook when they are looking for agencies or partnerships where you feel like independent agencies can really stand out. Howie, let's let you take that question first.
So I would say chemistry and trust are probably 2 incredibly important pieces that are often overlooked. It's amazing how often it's about what's on the slides. And I tell my team every day, it's not about a capabilities deck. It's not only about what's on those slides. Bring yourself, bring that room to life. And, you might like an idea in a deck. You might not like an idea in a deck. But if you believe in the people and you believe in their ability to problem solve and you believe in their obsessions and passions and knowledge, it really makes for quite a long-standing partnership. And most of our relationships, whether they're technically retained business or not, because it is sort of a technical term, whether it's technically retained or not, the longevity of those partnerships really speaks to what I'm talking about, which is really building a marriage or any deep relationship. Those 2 things are critical.
It's partly our fault, though. When I was running an agency, you do end up getting stuck in this rote of, here's the presentation, here's the deck, let's all walk through it, let's fill the room with 9 people so we look like we're a big agency. Sitting on this side of the deck now and seeing the reaction, and then once they hang up on the call, getting that feedback, it's shocking to me how many agencies don't make it fun, don't really make it interesting. High Dive is one of those agencies where I've seen them really just say, we're a fun agency. This is the kind of stuff we do. If you're into that kind of stuff, then great, let's talk more. And if you're not, then so be it. It's amazing to me how, I don't want to say scared, but how sometimes we've scared ourselves into feeling like we just need to walk through these 10 things so we can make sure we squeeze them out there. And we've lost the fun. It's our fault a little bit.
We've lost the fun. And if, I have this expression, certainly not my expression, but let your freak flag fly. And it really is something that the moment you walk into we're now remote, but the moment you walk into our office, you're really encouraged, empowered to just be who you are. And when you show up client side, be that same best version of yourself and have a good time at it. And yes, I agree with you, Sean. It is a lot of it is our own doing.
And again, as I say, our own doing, meaning collectively as an industry, certainly not individually. David, talk to us a little bit about from your side. Again, where do you feel like agencies, especially in the independent space, can really stand out versus some of the holding groups?
I mean, I think it's just the expertise. I mean, most of us that are in the independent space, we didn't build an agency when we were 22 years old, right? Like we didn't come out of college and build a marketing agency. Yeah. And so most of us did something for a while, got really good at it, and then decided we could help other people. So that's what it is for us. I mean, the big holdcos versus us, I'd say, they're really good at managing it tops down. and, managing a multi-billion dollar budget and being really, smart about it tops down. But on a day-to-day basis, the people that are actually making decisions and hands on keyboard haven't done this for more than 6 months sometimes. And so I'd say that's the big difference.
Robin, you get the last word. This is your specialty. What are you telling those agencies that you're talking to they need to be doing more of?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I love listening to Howie and David's answers on this because I kind of agree and disagree at the same time. I think there's a really important nuance here, which is worth pulling out. So I think like the ability, the knowledge, the expertise, it's exactly the same first thought that came into my head here. But I also think that the fun thing, some agencies, they overcompensate and go too far that way. So what I mean by that is so often I've heard this idea that, you know what, people buy from people. And I think it's true that is a factor, but I think when agencies wholly rely on their chemistry and their kind of sparkling wits and the fun that they put into things, it can detract from the fact that they actually aren't showing up with the depth of expertise that they need. So effectively, it becomes an excuse not to really have a business strategy, because as long as you turn up and you're fun to be with, then that becomes their strategy for converting pitches. So I think people tend to kind of rely on people buy from people when they don't have anything more interesting to say. So that becomes a problem very quickly.
It's a good point. It's a fair point, which again is the beauty sometimes of podcasts like this. It's not opposing points of view. It's the nuance of there's no perfect way to do it. I do feel like we miss out sometimes on having that lean in moment. It's what we pitch to brands all the time. You got to have something that helps you to stand out, whether again, that's this specific person, even on the podcast, right? We've got 4 gentlemen on this podcast, but honestly, Rob and I could listen to you talk all day. Why? It's the British accent. It's just something that feels different. And sometimes, again, I feel like as agencies, we do need to be thinking of that, especially as independents. All right, next question is just this. It's called Reach for the Gold. If you can make up any award, what's one you think either your team would have a good shot at winning, or just what's something out there you feel like, again, independent agencies don't often get a chance to pitch on? When you look at the big events like Cannes and everything else, obviously it's incredibly expensive. They have an unfair advantage in many cases. Certainly you could take an event like the Small Agency Awards, which to me, it's not that it's insulting. It's fantastic to have it, but it feels like, oh, there's also this little award show for the small agencies. And I feel like we miss the mark with that sometimes. Robin, I'm going to start with you on this one. What's an award that you feel like independent agencies should have a better shot at promoting themselves when it comes to winning?
Well, I'm going to get very meta on this question. It's not about what small agencies could compete for. I'm looking at it from my perspective as a guy that runs a consultancy that does this stuff. So I would be very happy to see some kind of body somewhere in the world give an award for the most agencies repositioned. I think we would have a decent stab at winning that one.
Talk to me about what that means when you say the most agencies repositioned. Tell me what that means.
Well, I mean, we've been going about 10 years. We have, in that time, repositioned probably about 150 agencies. So, we're a strategic advisory business. We help them figure out what business they're in. We help them figure out how to show up in the market. And we help them transition their business model so that they make more money and have more fun doing it. Yeah. So if someone was to dish out an award for the consultancy that had kind of got to that number and beyond, I would happily be beaten by an agency or a consultancy that had done more than we have.
I love it. David, how about from your perspective?
Yeah, for us, I was going to put it as best in alcohol. So from a retail media side, so it's kind of a growing division.
Yep.
Not a lot of agencies have gotten into the space. It's sort of a niche within a niche, if you will, of grocery retail media. Oh. And we dedicated to getting good at it a couple of years ago. And now we've worked with 80 different alcohol CPGs and helping them bring media to life at grocery and retail stores. When
I was running an independent, we handled Pabst, we handled Deep Eddy, we handled a bunch of beers, bars, and cars. And you're right. Once they were ready to dip in that retail media space, very hard to find and navigate and figure out, especially when it comes to alcohol and navigating all those pieces of who you can talk to, who you're not allowed to talk to. And from there, Howie, how about from you? What award do you feel like should be out there for the independents?
Initially, I was thinking the experience in working with a company like ours is certainly award worthy. But in listening to a previous podcast you had with High Dive, actually, you had mentioned earlier, that kind of stole it from me. So I put best use of group chat humor to solve a client problem, which if you looked at our Slack threads, it's equal parts comedy, write a room, and equal parts strategy sprint. And that would be one that I think we would take home the gold.
I don't know if we could fit that all on a trophy, but I'm sure we could figure it all out on one sheet. Let's talk about the next question. It's called Toolkit. What's one platform or tool you feel like your team is obsessed with? And what's one tool you wish You had Howie, you were just talking about Slack. Maybe give us some perspective from your standpoint as to what tools you feel like over the last couple of years you guys have really dug into, and what's something that you're kind of looking around for next.
So we just actually entered into a year-long partnership with a company called Springboards.ai, which we're really excited about. So I would say in terms of like a current obsession team-wide, that's it. It is a powerful creative and strategy platform. I suggest you check it out if you're not familiar. And then the other one is actually one that we created, which is called CreatorView.ai, which is a due diligence tool for influencer marketing.
Love it.
It's not to find influencers as much as to just make sure it's brand protection.
Yeah. David, how about from your perspective? Talk to us about some of the tools you guys are using and what do you wish was out there?
Yeah, the biggest one, I mean, I'd say makes us a little bit different, and it's just the way we run our media, but I'd say heavily into geolocation, bottoms up sort of mobile media that I'd say, again, compared to big national agencies, they just look at everything sort of tops down. But what's next? It's just the better way to integrate AI into our everyday life. And so it's even literally like, sounds pretty basic, but just Gemini tools. Like we are a Google house. Everything is based on Google. And I'd say we're only 20% probably using what Gemini can do for us as an agency. And I think we need to better unlock that in our world.
My phone is quickly filling with all of them with ChatGPT and Perplexity and each of them on my home screen as we navigate which ones will kind of rise to the top and go from there. Robin, how about you? Again, you get a chance to talk to all these agencies. I'm sure in many cases some are using some tools that are really helpful to them. Others probably say to you guys, I don't know what tool I need to be using for this, but what would you suggest? So what do you see out there that you're really hot on right now?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because I think one of the challenges that agencies see with AI is it feels so big, it feels so scary. It's how do you get your arms around it? Where do you know where to start? And I think the beauty of it, to go back to Howie's example, is just like have a great exam question and go have a play. So I think, depending on your discipline, there'll be different kind of mainstream platforms that you use to support your kind of core delivery of your services. But thinking more broadly, and frankly, this is true in our own business as well, is I'm obsessed with just using things like Claude, just as a thought partner. The ability to go and figure stuff out by putting a few instructions into a project and being able to use it, bounce it backwards and forwards, refine things on the fly, and create things that are high quality, whether it's writing or script ideas or marketing collateral, whatever it's going to be. Just the opportunity to do that at pace and to challenge yourself as a thinker, as well as kind of using it to polish. I just think we're barely scratching the surface of that stuff. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about that.
This next question is called It's Still a Relationship Game. With more and more data, of course, wrapped around decision making, it might be easy to feel like personal relationships between brands and partners is less important. Certainly, we're seeing with the holding groups as they slash entire thousands of people and teams, it makes it harder for brands to be able to know who am I supposed to call now that this whole team is gone. And to me, it is one of the places where independents can stand out. They often know the team on the pitch is the team they get to deal with. And so talk about that. Robin, I'm going to stay with you. Talk about that as you're talking to independent agencies specifically about how do they deepen those relationships or how do they build new ones?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think since the year dot, certainly in my career, people in agencies have been talking about going upstream. You want to talk to more decision makers. You want to be able to have more influence. You want to get back to that sort of mythical, being whispering in the ear of the CEO. I think a lot of the time, certainly in the last 25 years, the marketing conversation has been quite marginalized. The CMO's role has been less important. So I think the big piece here is about what means that your agency and your senior people earn the right to have those kind of conversations. So for me, yeah, the relationship is absolutely important, but back to the point about expertise, it's about what you put into that relationship container. So if I had to boil that down, I think one thing that we are consistently seeing agencies not do well enough and aspire to do better is just to bring basic consultative behaviors into those conversations. Be more kind of commercial with the conversations they're able to have a more kind of, expert position on different flavors of risk, however it shows up in the client conversation. So just be a business practitioner, have a different kind of conversation, and that earns you the right to open up different doors, different budget lines, and ultimately drive the bottom line of your agency.
It seems so simple, and yet when it's Monday morning and you've got 25 fires, it's hard to sometimes remember, which again is why sometimes it's very small to bring in a consultant to give you a little bit of that outside guidance, especially if you're near the top. Howie, you're at the top. So how do you navigate just that question?
I was going to say what Robin said. I mean, it is, yes, the substance has to be there. The value has to be there. But I think that the relationship has always been a key driver, and I think it will continue to be a key driver. That human connection, that human awareness, that human understanding, that human component. I'm not one to say ever and never, but I don't see that going away.
David, in your side, really that industry a little bit is still a baby to some extent. When you think of retail media networks, just the titles alone in the last 4 years that have been added in that space have grown vastly, right? So talk to us a little bit about just that, whether it's added titles, whether it's building these personal relationships. How are you navigating that these days?
I mean, I think it's still about relationships. I mean, the RMN industry is a pretty small space. I mean, even specifically myself, former Target, former Roundel, like we've now infiltrated most of the top RMN kind of groups, across the country. So, that relationship is still what gets your email responded to or gets you that phone call or that meeting, right? Yeah. And I think, build on the AI conversation. Once AI tools continue to grow and proliferate, I'd say the floor of the ability to execute just gets raised for everybody. And so then like everybody becomes good. And I would say you start to trust in those relationships to make it great, right? And that's just I think the technology will just be a little more unilateral over the next few years.
It's a big and small group at the same time. Two of our investors, the CPG guys, Shri Rajagopalan and Peter. It's funny. I went shop talk with them one year, which is 8,000 people maybe. And they were like, oh, a bunch of people are going to know us here. And I was like, oh, okay. And they did. I was like, oh my God, like they're stopping for photos and everything. So
you're walking around in branded merchandise a lot of times, right? Everybody knows Peter.
Of course. So. Listen, that's the power of branding, right? This is the last question, you guys. It's called Key to My Heart. You get to invite somebody, anyone alive or no longer with us, to a keynote, a marketing event that you're putting on. Who would it be and why? We don't get to pick Steve Jobs or the obvious. Give me somebody interesting. Give me somebody that we'd be surprised about. David, who would you pick for your keynote?
Oh gosh,
and why?
Well, having me go first gives me a curveball, so maybe I'll have another answer later. But the one I had sort of immediately thought of before you said surprising was just within our space. Gary Vee is just always very interesting to me. He's got a very different mindset than your sort of standard media people, and so I find his stuff interesting and always a few years into the future of sort of how he talks about maybe building your own little companies or what might happen with AI or whatever. So he's inspirational in that way.
He also seems to talk like, again, your dad might talk to you sometimes and call your baby ugly. He always seems to start a little bit there and then softens up from there. Howie, how about you? Who would you pick for a keynote speaker and why?
So originally, also same thing. I had Jim Henson as my guy, which I know.
You had Jim Henson on one of the last episodes.
Right, you're the guy from Clear Channel.
Yeah,
Jim Henson. Anyway, yes. So Jim Henson, but I would also say Jerry Garcia from Grateful Dead. When I think about Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead, and I think about what it is that I do for a living and sort of how I got here. He built one of the most enduring fandoms in the history of life. No playbook, just authenticity, community, and generosity and substance. Going back to Robin's point, I mean, an amazing songwriter and an incredible guitar player.
Listen, substance means two things to Jerry Garcia, but I'll take it. It's a fair point, my friend. You did bring up community, which I thought was great as well. Robin, how about from you? Who would you pick and why?
Oh, well, because you've very kindly given me the final word, I'm going to push my luck a little bit. I'm going to have a kind of double header. So I have two people on stage. I'm going to have David Bowie. And I'm going to have Cindy Rose. I think David Bowie is an absolute masterclass in creative reinvention. I think that would be fascinating to put him and Cindy on stage together. Of course, Cindy, new CEO. I'm kind of playing the patriotic card here. New CEO of WPP. She is a technologist, by background. She's a lawyer. She's a sales professional. So to get creative reinvention, to get consultative selling, to get that kind of commerciality on a stage to talk about reviving an icon of our industry like WPP, I would love to hear them put that presentation together.
Well, it's a good, interesting pick, especially thinking of how those two would interact potentially on the stage. But again, back to your point, David, as well as your point, Howie, the beauty of this is it is still a community. We appreciate the chance to have the three of you on here to be part of our community. We're proud to be part of yours. And so, of course, on behalf of Robin, Howie, and David, we want to thank all of you guys for listening to this episode of Rise of the Independent podcast.
Thanks for listening to Rise of the Independents, hosted by Sean Halter and presented by MiO Marketplace. MiO, the marketer's matchmaker. Find out more about them by visiting miomarketplace.com today.